It's easier to be religious than to do the right thing. I know that I've been talking about this a lot, and maybe to some people, they're like, what is your deal, girl? Am I trying to deter people from going to church or gathering to worship if they choose to? No, I am not. But what I'm trying to show people and really send the message of how important it is that you have a relationship with God. I believe that Jesus made it very clear in Matthew chapter 7 when he said, there will be many who will say, Lord, Lord, did we not cast out devils in your name? Did we not do great miracles in your name? And he's going to say, depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. These are habitual sin, lawlessness, guys. Just being lawless, doing wrong, not listening. And if you go further into the book of Revelation, and you read the first few chapters, I believe it goes up to I think you could stop at chapter 4. You're going to see where the angel was saying to the church, you're doing all these great things, but I have this one thing against you. You see? And it was simple things, really. He acknowledged all the religious things that they were doing, but he was really dealing with them about matters of the heart, how they conduct things, how they do things. Things of, hey, I realize you're doing all these things, you're doing all these great things in my name, and it's great. I appreciate that. But you've lost your first love for me. Or you're actually partaking in certain things that I do not appreciate. You are allowing certain individuals to bring a message that is leading my people astray. Fix this, or else. There is this facade that people like to put on and just show God as just this happy-go-lucky person, and everything is all sunshine and gumdrops and lollipop. But just as he made us, he is worthy of respect and consideration. And just like any of us, if someone kept violating that trust, we may have to make decisions to maybe change the dynamics of the relationship. The only thing with God being sovereign is that he is long suffering. He is long suffering. But don't let that fool you. We should never let that fool us. Because of a certainty when we are judged, and if God forbid we are to hear, depart from me, we don't have anything to stand on. We can't complain and say, God, you only gave me 30 years to change. God, you only forgave me 150,000 plus times. God, you only forgave me 70 times 7 plus infinity times. Anybody who finds himself in the center of the earth or wherever hell may be, none of them will ever say, oh my God, I don't belong here. We will know that individuals, those people know why they're there. Because at that point, not only are we not conscious of sin, and when we do it, do we not behave differently when we have carried out a sinful act, done something we should not have done? We know. And imagine when you are out of the body and now we are as a living soul, we are going to know even more about why we're there. But nevertheless, we were not ignorant. Okay? So the point is that sometimes there is a one-sided message that's preached and taught where it's like, you're going to hear how great you are. And in churches, you will be encouraged that if you give and if you do this and if you do that and if you participate in this and if you give your time and if you do this, God is going to be pleased. These are supplemental things. And I would say they're almost optional. Okay? God is looking at how you behave and what we are doing when we get out of that church. God is looking at how we do things, the simple things. And so this is why I talk about religion. Religion can become somewhat of an anesthetic. It puts you to sleep. It can become a sedative. You're doing it so much that you're not really aware of the things that are glaring. You're not aware of the stains and the darkness that is there because you have become caught up in religion, which is a light that is in fact dark. Okay? It gives you a false sense of being. If you walk into many churches, they're very carnal. They're very carnal. It strokes the ego of the narcissist, the sociopath. It strokes the ego of the abuser. It strokes the ego of the bullies, because all you have to do is go in there and perform. You go in there and you sing, but so can Beyonce. You go in there and you can speak eloquently, but so can Dr. Phil. You could go in there and you will give, but so does the devil worshiper, so does the atheist. Things such as speaking, being great in speech and talent and ability in dance, this is something that anyone of any social path who has been given that talent can do. But what separates us is going to be the condition of our heart and the way we treat people. So as I said in the beginning, people will go to a million Bible studies before they will forgive somebody that God is placing in their heart to forgive. There are people who can tell you every verse and every scripture in the Bible. They will gladly go and preach a message and sing for hours before they will end that relationship that God is telling them to end. They will go and do all these things at the church. They'll clean the church. They'll hand out pamphlets at the door. They'll greet people and say, God bless you. But they will still be disrespectful to their neighbors. It's easier to do that, isn't it? It's easier to go to church, wake up every day, get dressed, go down and sit somewhere for hours, for a couple of hours, however you do it, than to tell the truth about something that you've done wrong. It's easy to go to conferences. It's easier to go to conferences and sing the praises of God and talk about God all day than to go to your boss and apologize for something that you did wrong. It's easy to join the deacon board and help them to baptize people than it is to submit to your husband or submit to your wife or to love your wife and to be gentle with your wife. And I know people don't like submit, but you have to understand that the way God says submit is not to abuse. There's nothing in the Bible of men abusing their wives. You won't find it. And if you look at the way Jesus treated women, the few encounters that he's had with them, you know that he's not an abuser of women. So this is where you have to understand the character of God. But I digress. This is not about submission. It's easy to turn on a video, turn on your phone or your camera and talk about God than to go in and apologize to your son or your daughter for beating them beyond recognition, or you know you did something wrong. You accuse them of something. You know that happens as a parent. You think your child is doing something and then you talk to them, right? You're like, you shouldn't have done this, and the child goes, Mom, Dad, no, that's not what happened, right? And hopefully you listen, but you may find out you were just dead wrong about something. But you read 1,000 religious books before you can say, you know what, I was wrong for that. I apologize. Why? Because you see them as just something that you made, farmhands. There are people who can do a lot of religious things. Think of how much easier it is. It's easier to join the choir than to show up to work on time. It's easy to play the instruments at church than it is to, finally admit that you lied about something. You can play 10 harps one time, all in the name of the Lord, but you won't end that adulterous relationship. So do you see the picture that I'm trying to paint here to show you how religion it's so easy to do that. Because why? Because you're compartmentalized. The reason why people can go to church and do all these things and still leave church and do things that's wrong is because their heart is completely untouched. They're there to do a thing. And all that's happening is that their gift, talents, abilities, emotions are engaged just like anybody else. Just as Beyonce, she get on stage, she do her thing. She knows what to do. She's going to bring the house down. You can do the same thing. I guarantee you, Beyonce come to your church and she starts to sing a religious song and the lights are dim and all the stuff's going on. You're going to claim to catch the Holy Ghost. Haven't you ever seen a Michael Jackson concert? How people are fainting from exhaustion, exertion, crying, raising their hand, reaching for him on the stage. That is the power of the gifts and talents. So, don't be fooled when you're in a church and you're screaming and you're hollering and the music is going. Music does that. They play Mary Had a Little Lamb and add some really emotional music to it, you will cry. And then if they were to go ahead and just have a big screen and showing you a cute little lamb run across some grass with the sky blue and all that, and enough graphics, it will make you cry. Don't you sometimes look at cute videos of little kittens or puppies or whatever, or just the beautiful ocean, and you see these creatures in the ocean swimming and they add some beautiful music and it's swelling and you feel like, oh my gosh. Have you ever watched a documentary and wonder why you're feeling so emotional? Well, I've done plenty of social experiments, mostly on myself, which is some things, if you just lower the music, take the music out and just watch it, you're not going to have that type of feeling. But that's the power of music, guys. It really it affects your emotions and the way that you see things. I say that if we lived in a world where there was just loudspeakers, speakers where there was really pleasant, nice music playing in the outdoors, people would be nicer. Okay? But then at the same time, if they were playing music that's stirring you up and that sounds aggressive, people will act out more. That's the power of music. So what I'm saying is, these moments that people will have at church, and then they go and they do all these things and they cry and they wail or not, maybe checking the phones the whole time or hoping it's over. They may feel something and they think that this is God. No, you're emotional. Because when you leave and you go on your own, you're back to doing the same things. There's people who will be angry at their husband, not speaking to their husband or to their wives. Their heart is just totally stony towards them. It could be their children. And they'll go into church and sing and cry and raise their hands and everything. They'll go in and play the instrument, bring the house down, whatever job that they have. They will carry out their religious rites and will walk straight out that church and still not talk to their husband or their wives that whole trip back, and maintain that grudge for weeks, months, if not years. Because it's easy to do religion than to actually change the heart, to actually surrender the baggage, the hurt, the pain, the malice, the lust. It's easier to do that. It's easier to get up and go to church every Sunday than to no longer lay in the bed with the adulterous man, adulterous woman, or your lover, or your friend's boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. It is easier to go to the church and to pay for and to do things for the homeless and to pay for new church equipment and to sing and to dance and to shout and to cry. It's easier to do that religious performance than it would be for you, then it'll be easier than it is for you to stop being violent. You're still punching holes in the wall. You're still flipping people the bird in traffic. It's easy to do these things and still the main fire starter at work, still sexually harassing people at the job. So I say that not to condemn anybody, But to let you know, if you really think about it, go to church or tell the truth about something, you're going to go to church. Go to church or make amends and apologize for something wrong that you've done. You rather go to church. Preach a message, prophesy, rather than humble yourself to the person where God is saying, I know you didn't do anything, but I want you to go and I want you to apologize for your actions. You will prophesy all day. Some of these individuals, they'll prophesy before they do that, before they humble themselves. So that's what religion does. Because religion is a performance of rites and things that people do. But the thing about it, when you're no longer focused on God, it becomes very dangerous. It becomes simply works. This is where people begin to feel, I have given tithes and offerings. I have been active. I sing. I went to the conference. I helped to set up for this function. I stay late. I get up early. I have the church keys. I took things to the pastor. I did this. I did their dry cleaning. I helped to do that. I helped to do this. I'm a part of this organization. I have taken a picture with this celebrity pastor. I am co-pastor, co-founder of this campus. They get very caught up in that and not knowing they're so far away from God. And then they start to accumulate wealth. They start to get things. And so if they're accumulating wealth and they have houses and great big things and they can build this great big house and displace all the forest animals just because you want to build this huge house and you can only live in 2 rooms that you use, but you have broken down all the trees, you cut down all the trees, you gave us that less oxygen now, and you displaced all the animals. It's selfish just because you want this big house. I'm not saying you can't have a big house, but people don't think of how you affect the environment. So just imagine, it's not like you're building something to put people in that a bunch of people can live there. It's just for you and your spouse and your 2 or 3 kids. You have a 6,000-7,000 foot house, square foot house, and all this land that you can't even get to. But guess what? They'll think that, oh, look, God is blessing me. And if you're not careful, you will think, oh, this person knows a celebrity. Oh, they're in a movie. Oh, they know this talk show host. Oh, they're friends. They're taking pictures with the governors. They're taking pictures with this person and that person. They must be doing right. God must be blessing me. Look how rich I'm getting. All right, let's turn the tables. If everybody in the church was giving you a portion of their check, you will look just like that too. And if you were living a foul, rotten life, it's not going to change the fact that your bank account is going to get fatter. Hello, don't be fooled. Not only that, remember in Matthew chapter 4, when Satan, he offered Jesus all the riches and the glories of the world if he will bow down and worship him. There are lots of people who are carnal, who are doing a lot of religious work because it is a lucrative business, okay? And they're not changing. They're still carnal. They're still beating up their wife, still beating up their husband, still the worst neighbor, arguing with the HOA all the time, or they are the head of the HOA. That is just the HOA member from hell. They go around with a little ruler, bothering and arguing with people and they're just on a power trip. Okay, just doing the most because they have this authority. Okay, so they will do these things and behave in this manner. And because they are unchanged, I feel like I lost my train of thought, but they're unchanged. They behave in this way. And they'll carry on in this manner because they're doing religious things. They are not really or truly changed in the heart. Because God, when he deals with your heart, when he deals with us guys, when you're not being religious and carrying out these religious rites, and when you are, and you have all this attention and you have all these things, okay, and then you've been given so many things, you can think that God is blessing you when in fact all that's happening is you have bowed down. You have submitted your will. You have changed some things. You may keep some things, but you have changed some things. These individuals would have done that. And so they begin to accumulate riches of the world. And they think, oh, that must mean I'm doing the right thing. You are giving people a lot of people, a bunch of people, thousands, hundreds of people are giving 10% of their earnings. Some of us earn little, some of us earn a lot. Just imagine a person who gets paid maybe 70, $100,000 or $200,000 or $2 million a year, and they giving 10% of that. And some of them probably give the 10% upfront for the entire year or every month. And so they begin to get fatter and get bigger, and you will think God is blessing them. But not necessarily, not in all cases. There are cases where God does bless, but God gives us our blessing in measures. And this is what I believe. I believe as we grow in Him and He tries our reign and tests our hearts, He will give us a little more to show that we can handle it. At the same time, He may bless us exponentially all at once with something. But during that time, if we are in tune with Him, He will show us the areas or in an area that we're being prideful or we're being too laid back. God is always going to show you. So when you see people who say that they're God that's just doing these ungodly things, understand that's a hard neck, stiff-necked, hardened heart individual. Because when you have the Spirit of God in you, when you do something wrong, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel this nagging sensation in you. And at that moment, he'll let you know. You spoke too harshly to this person. The way you dealt with this individual was wrong. You need to fix that. However he may speak to you in your heart. You're not hearing a voice, but it's a knowing. And in your mind, in your heart, you know you did wrong. He's going to tell you that. It's the same way we feel when we're doing something wrong. When people are doing things wrong, they behave differently. If someone's trying to sneak out of the house or sneak in the house or sneak across town, they become hyper vigilant and very alert. Their heart is racing a little bit. They're moving different. They're walking different. Why? Because truth is with you the entire time. No matter how darkened a person is, and they're like, they don't believe in God and they don't believe in anything. As soon as they do something wrong, they begin to do things. That's why they will hide evidence. That's why they will lie. That's why criminals, they do certain things. And all of a sudden, they know they did the crime. And they're doing all this extra, what they call going into full tilt boogie mode. Just doing all these things that they end up getting caught. They're calling the police. Oh, have we found anything? They're going down and talk to them all the time. Why? Because truth is haunting them. When you're doing something you shouldn't be doing at work, when you're getting on the computer to do something you shouldn't do, just realize how you're feeling, how your heart is beating, how you're behaving, how you're talking, whether you become more aggressive or you're irritated, whatever it may be. Realize that the reason you feel that hypervigilance is because there's always truth within us. The Spirit of God is there. You know you're doing something wrong. In the very least, He's given us a conscience to let us know when we're doing something wrong or if we're doing something right, okay? Or when we need to correct something. So just please understand this, guys. There's a thin line with religion, and you have to open up your eyes so you can see the difference. It's important that you are willing to face yourself, face your flaws. It's not something that you just sit there and think about it and be sad and depressed about it. You have to realize, hey, I do have a problem. And you have to be willing to do the work and allow the Lord to work and change you, okay? And some things it's instant deliverance and healing, and other times it takes a while. But I just want people to avoid the mistake of being caught up in religion. As I gave the example earlier, it's easier to go to choir practice than it is to forgive your dad. It's easier to go out of town, and it's easier to stand in the corner and hand out pamphlets than it is to listen to the needs of your wife. And so that's where I want to show you how easily religion can begin to deceive people so much, and how much easier it is to do that than it is to actually change the heart and submit completely to God. I hope that makes sense. God bless.